do you think World of Tanks console is doing great and one of the best it's ever been? Today's video is going to try and answer that question. Of course, I want to hear your opinions and your thoughts as well, so make sure to leave those in the comment section down below and let's get into it. So I think first what we want to talk about is the current state of the game. Is it actually playable? And in my personal opinion, the very short answer to that is definitely. There are so many opportunities for you to play the different kind of content that you want to play within console that I just think that pretty much everyone's going to have something at least that they want to play. Yes, there's been issues, and I'm not going to say that there haven't been issues, but we'll talk about that in the issued section in the timestamps that you can see within this video. However, what we do have is a good variety of content, and of course you can look at things like World War II, you can look at Cold War, and I mean just being able to play both of them is a good idea. I think that allows, you know, players that maybe wanted to just play the modern tanks to be able to do that, but also play the World War II tanks like they previously had. I think with the increase in player numbers that you've seen recently, we're looking at peak times on World of Tanks console at about 20,000 players roughly, and that's 6 o'clock UK time, so I don't know what it is at peak American time, but that is pretty much the highest numbers that I've seen in a long time. Usually previously we were looking at about 10,000 to 12,000 players at any one time, and I mean just from the amount of people that have been watching my content has also increased, so I'm guessing that, you know, it's somewhat correlated. Obviously people are enjoying the game, whether that's because new players are joining the game or whether that's just because it's winter, people are getting on the game and playing a little bit more. I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see as to the long-term effects. But I think that Wargaming's movement towards some better things has definitely helped. Now, I'm not saying that Wargaming have done a perfect job. We all know exactly what happened with update 6.0. There's been over the 8 years now that World of Tanks console has been going on, and Wargaming console developing it. There's been a lot of problems that we've all seen, and yeah, definitely some issues that never really got resolved and left a massive rift within the community. But I think Wargaming have kind of slowly started to heal those players, and as I kind of always try and say, you never really quit World of Tanks, even if you do stop playing for a long period of time. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, but eventually you usually come back, whether that's for an extended period of time, I don't know, but there's definitely a thing about coming back and playing this game I think you don't really see with very many games, and I think that being able to, you know, come back 3 years later but still have all of the progress that you had from the previous years is kind of what's probably helped out World of Tanks console. Whereas, you know, you look at a game like Call of Duty where there's a new one coming out every single kind of year, which means that if you then don't play for 3 years, you come back and it's all kind of new and different, and I guess that's where consoles really helped. Obviously, I've been trying to make videos on trying to just guides and stuff like that, but obviously you guys have definitely been more active, and I've seen that in the comment section. I've seen it from your opinions. Obviously, I'm always looking forward to seeing what you guys have to think. Me personally, I've played for 7 years. I can kind of have that kind of bias where, you know, I don't see what it's like to be a new player, and I guess that is where you guys really come in helpful to see what really happens. Obviously, I'm not oblivious to the new player experience being absolutely atrocious for the majority of players, and when the Panzer V-4 is still in its unnerfed state, really doesn't help the low tiers. And then you look at introducing wheeled light tanks, which of course an absolute nightmare for anyone trying to grind through the line. And anywhere like down from like tier 5 all the way up to tier 10 right now, yeah, it's been a little bit of a problem, especially with the influx of those tanks. But give it another month and they'll probably be dying out slowly, so it won't be too much of a problem for you guys to actually play. So I think that's really good. I think that the wheeled light tanks were actually implemented. You know, they're not necessarily terrible, they're not really that amazing either, so I think that they kind of got it right. There's definitely some aspects from a theoretical standpoint where you introduce tanks that are just that fast and can turn that quick, that make them kind of broken but not like overpowered. If I don't know how to explain it, but you know, basically they're kind of the mechanics themselves in which you can turn on a dime make them really annoying, but they're not necessarily themselves that overpowered, because the situation that you can actually use that ability only comes in a small percentage of the game, and for the majority of the game they're not actually that good, at least in my personal opinion. Obviously if you play them correctly and you play them like top tier, 1% of players, then yeah, you can have amazing games, but I think that they're not necessarily inherently overpowered that maybe they are on PC. Now, regardless of the overpowered tanks, I think we have to talk about the kind of purchasing power that one individual can have on console when we compare that to World of Tanks PC and what you have to spend on those sort of games to be able to get anywhere. And trust me, if you play console, you will be astounded with how much you have to spend on PC just to get to the same sort of kind of level. I mean, the season pass to begin with, you don't get premium tanks from the season pass on PC, at least not without a long period of time of grinding and doing all of that sort of thing. And it also costs you like 4 times more because you have to purchase 4 different season pass chapters, and yeah, it's basically a way of just farming loads of money. And plus gold generally on PC costs more, which means that yeah, you're spending more and getting less effectively. So yeah, basically if you're playing console, I wouldn't necessarily complain about the pricing, because it could be 10 times worse if you play PC, but definitely some of the aspects of the game where you're paying like £40 for a tank, you need to reevaluate that and decide whether or not it's actually worth it. In my opinion, paying £40 for one singular tank on a game is not the way to go. If you're paying £40 for a year's worth of premium, maybe that's a little bit better because it's only £3 a month or something like that, and you're getting a lot more benefit. Every single game that you play on that game is definitely going to be advantage from that, and there's kind of the avenues that I go to. I think we have to also talk about the fact that the amount of content that we've been getting comparatively to other games is actually not that bad. There's definitely content coming out. Obviously with every single new big update like we're seeing today as of the recording of this video, you can see that we're getting new maps, we're getting extra content, we're getting new tech trees, we're getting new premium tanks, stuff like that. So there's always content flowing onto the game in a fairly regular pattern. There's very rarely a week where we have absolutely zero content to be able to cover, and I mean you can see that if you've been playing the game for any length of time, and if you're interested in kind of getting involved with a game that does actually have some pretty decent kind of amount of content that they produce, then I guess World of Tanks console is one of those that can be really good. Does it mean that you're going to be getting these massive updates where you're seeing like a ton of new maps, like 20 different maps all in one go, where it suddenly revitalizes the game and you're playing a completely new game? No, you're not going to see that, just because Wargaming don't have the funds, I don't think, to be honest with you, and I wouldn't really want to see such a massive update come out of the Wargaming headquarters, because we all know how those tend to go. Anyway, I think we ramble kind of enough on the whole the amount of content that we've got. Now I want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments, because I think it is really important that we kind of talk about these things and definitely showcase any tips and kind of tricks for new players or anyone that kind of you might think could come advantageous. I think there's definitely problems with the game, and I think now is the kind of the time to delve into that. We've been 9 minutes in. Let's see what we can actually come up with as to kind of better the game itself. Now, first things first is the new player experience. Everyone always complains, oh, Wargaming, they don't really produce much for the new players, and that's entirely true. I think that there's no kind of beating around the bush here. Wargaming do not develop enough content for new players and to retain the players that they actually have within the game. They're kind of relying on the influx of just new content which people pay for and are going to continually pay for, premium tanks, season passes, stuff like that, that I think Wargaming are kind of relying on. And I think that maybe they just don't realise the power of actually trying to grow their audience in the first place, who will then purchase all of the content that they're producing. And I think that trying to retain those players is one of the areas that they've definitely struggled with, hence why you're seeing the new player tutorial system coming back into the game where you can repeatedly do that. Is that actually fixing the core problem? No, not whatsoever. Just one of the most like kind of weird kind of updates that I've seen. Wow, you can replay the training mission, but if you're a new player to a game, generally you don't think you're bad at the game, so you're not going to replay the training mission to find out what you're doing. So just having that feature seems almost pointless. I think then you've also got the fact that you're giving them preferential kind of RNG, which is essentially that you'll be more lucky in the game than someone that's been playing for a little bit longer, which means that you're gonna, when you reach the kind of threshold, which is 100 games, after you play 100 games, you're now at the same level as everyone else. You don't get kind of a boost against everyone else like you previously did, and therefore you're going to struggle suddenly. And 100 games, you're not going to learn the game enough to actually be able to kind of keep up with some of the other players. And since there's no actual real tutorial systems with the perks, with the kind of content and stuff like that, that's definitely a problem for the majority of players within the game. Trying to find a source of information that's actually going to tell you the good things, not just, you know, getting it off your mate Dave, who's been playing for 2 weeks as well, is not really going to help you that much. Do you know what I mean? So I think that it kind of comes down to the fact that Wargaming should be providing at least channels where people can go to, they can ask questions, or at least they can get information that they need to. Obviously, people, if you're watching my videos, you probably have seen a couple of guides, at least a couple of gameplay episodes, and you can hopefully get a little bit of information as to kind of spots that you can go to. Is it necessarily a comprehensive thing as to what you need to be doing? No, I just don't have the time to be able to go over tons and tons of content to be able to deliver, you know, every single in-depth guides and stuff like that. Obviously that comes down to the gaming company that are actually producing the game. They should be the ones actually providing that content. I can only do so much. I'm just one person sat behind one screen playing one game with only like a couple hours a night. So yeah, it's kind of difficult. I try my best and hopefully you do enjoy that. And of course, if you do actually have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. If I don't respond to them, sorry, I may not have time in that kind of day. There's hundreds of comments that come through every single day, and I will look through and go back through some and try and help you out. So make sure that you leave those if you've got any questions, and I'm sure many people will actually try and help you out in the comment section as well. So be aware, have a look down there, see if you've got any questions and stuff that you need to be answered. But kind of coming back to that, maybe Wargaming should actually implement a system whereby you can go onto a community tab. It comes up with a kind of questions within the game that you can ask to people. It's like almost like a live chat. Obviously filter off and censor the chat because you know what the World of Tanks community is like sometimes, but definitely that would help. Maybe just have like a frequently asked questions, an FAQ in the actual game, like what perk should I get first, or what kind of equipment should I typically put on a light tank, or maybe just have this virtual assistant. I've been going on about this for a long time, whereby you know you play, comes up with what perk you should probably pick in a light tank. You know, Sixth Sense would be a good one, situational awareness, camo, stuff like that, and then kind of give a little summary like you should be playing a light tank like a kind of light tank, you know, looking at using camo, looking at using kind of stealth, stuff like that, just giving little hints and tips where people go, oh, this is a medium tank. This means that I can spot opponents, so I don't have to be kind of sat at the back sniping, and I don't have to be the one in the front with the heavy tanks. You know, give them basically just a little bit of a summary, showcase what you can do, maybe even just apply a couple of good games where people showcase and run through a couple of games saying what you should be thinking about and stuff like that. And hopefully, I guess that Wargaming cotton onto this and start providing these tutorial systems, or at least somewhere where you, as the player that maybe wants to get up, even if you're at a fairly good level, you know, if you're looking at 55% win rate plus, you know, you have definitely got room to improve. I mean, myself included, I'm at a 61% win rate. And yeah, I could definitely improve in quite a few aspects of my game, and seeing just different kind of ideas, stuff like that being contributed by loads of different people within the community definitely helps with that. So yeah, trying to get a bit more community engagement in the actual game. I'm not saying direct you off to a site off the game, and there you go. You shouldn't have to go off of the game to be able to get the information that you want for the game, because 99% of players are probably never going to do that. So if you don't make it easy, people aren't going to do it. So there we go. Now, regardless of kind of the new player experience, I think for old players, the key thing coming in to the game is, of course, the Cold War game mode, and I think we'll need to talk about that as to how that's kind of going right now. And I think that with the introduction of a lot of new tank lines and, you know, reintroducing tanks that we already have within the game, it's caused a little bit of controversy. But to be honest with you, once you get stuck into Cold War, it's not that bad. There's definitely aspects which I don't like. I don't like True Vision. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I find it just a little bit boring. You know, I mean, I can have a really good game if I just camp and don't really have to think much, you know, just place myself in spots in the map that I know will basically be really hard for the opponents to even know that I'm there, whilst also picking apart the opponents. And it's like, yeah, you can have really broken games, but the gameplay is boring in itself. And I guess that's kind of where I don't really like True Vision. That's why I kind of like having spotting. Makes it easier for new players though. I think, you know, not having the fact that people can go invisible within the game probably helps out a lot of you. And I'm sure you probably think that too if you kind of play it at any kind of level. Obviously everyone has differences in opinion, and I'm not saying my opinion's right or yours is wrong or yours is right and mine is wrong. You know, we all play the same game, we all play it for different reasons, and I think that Wargaming kind of know that, but I think that they should definitely provide a little bit more opportunity for people to switch it up and play different things. Definitely introducing some new game modes would help with this kind of a bit of stale kind of gameplay if you're playing World War II. I think that new modes potentially, or at least having maybe grand battles or something like that, could freshen it up. And I know that they're working on ranked battles at the minute, which would be good for those of you who are interested in really developing and playing against people that really know their stuff within the game. That will definitely help you to get better at the game if that's what you're focused around. Or alternatively, maybe we should be looking at producing some more novel equipment that's going to allow you to try out different things and make these weird tank builds, which I love doing. You know, IS-7 RAM build, things like the Aufklärungs Panzerpanther RAM build, you know, all of these weird, different and novel builds, you know, even playing like the Object 268 with HE and stuff. Yeah, it's all fun to do, and if Wargaming can allow that to happen a little bit more, then I think everyone will be very, very pleased. So hopefully that kind of summarises what the game's state. Is it worth playing? The big question at the end of the video. I would definitely recommend it to people that are interested in kind of history, or at least interested in kind of strategy, learning how to like outplay people. I think that that's where the kind of key crux of World of Tanks console really comes in, and just World of Tanks in general. You know, if you're interested in tanks, doesn't have to play the console version, you can play World of Tanks. It all has kind of those mechanics, and just learning how to just one up someone. I think that's always what video games have done well, and Wargaming have definitely done that well. There's a lot of controversy surrounding Wargaming. There's loads of things that they've done wrong. There's loads of things that they've messed up with the community. And yeah, I think that aside from that, you know, the game itself is fun. Hence why people play it. Hence why thousands of people play it every single day. And I don't think, you know, we're ever going to move away from that. It's been going for like 8 years on console now, and 10 years plus on PC. So I think that it's definitely here to kind of stay, at least for the foreseeable future. And if they keep developing, keep creating content, and just not trying to annoy the community, I was going to say something else there, but yeah, definitely just keep the community on side, try and produce content that they actually want as opposed to what your developers want, which has definitely been the problem for console. Mercenary tanks, yeah, we all know how that goes, but there we go. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. Hopefully you kind of got an insight as to my opinion, and of course I want to know what you guys actually think about the game. Are you still even playing the game? Maybe you watch this and you watch my videos and you don't even play World of Tanks anymore. It's always interesting to see what you have to say. Any reasons why you would come back to the game if you aren't playing, or any reasons why you're kind of thinking about quitting, or whatever your kind of opinion is. Make sure to leave it in the comment section down below, and answer any questions that anyone may have if you know the answer, etc. It's kind of just about building a community on this channel, you know, regardless of what Wargaming actually do. I'm not associated really with them that much. I just want to make sure that you guys kind of know what you're doing and we all have a good time and yeah, enjoy World of Tanks as it is right now. How long that'll go on for, depending on Wargaming, is of course down to them. But there we go. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to check out some of the others on screen right now, which will showcase some kind of guides, gameplay, and don't forget the update has been released, so you can check out the update news video from the other day showcasing what comes out with this new season, kind of update rundown, and of course we'll have another one showcasing all of the content for the update today, tomorrow, and we're going to see the new tanks in action in the rest of the week. So make sure to subscribe, like the video, and of course leave your comments, and I hope to read through them later on. So there we go. Thank you. Goodbye.